yourself?
I am an energy balancing practitioner, certified as a Reiki teaching master. I work more under the umbrella of what we would call shamanic Reiki, and I'm a spiritual medium here to help people have confidence in their own inner knowing and release the blockages that they need to so that they can be fully self-actualized.
Lovely. So I'm going to ask you some questions about your awakening. So the first one, what was happening in your life at the time?
So I spent a little time ruminating about this before we met, and it's been something that's been ever evolving since I was a child. But most recently in 2019, I was a hairstylist. I was really feeling depressed that I wanted to do something more with myself that was more into helping people on a deeper level than just behind the chair.
Yeah.
And my father was declining in his health. So it all kind of nicely came together where I started studying Reiki, and I had no concept that I was a medium, and it all just kind of unraveled or blossomed from there.
Okay. So did you recognize it was an awakening at the time, or did it feel like something else?
It felt like I was discovering on a deeper level who I was, and I had to accept the greatness of it.
Yeah.
You know, and I realized, because I fully believe we are innately who we are, we're designed as a certain way, and then we have to come into consciousness about what our gifts are and start working with them intention. So I was slowly starting to recognize behind the chair as a hairstylist what was happening.
Yeah.
So again, it was slow and steady.
And what did your body do at first? Did you feel more alive or more sensitive or more overwhelmed?
At first, I felt more sensitive because, again, I started acknowledging, because for me, I see a lot of numbers repeating. I have internal dialogue that before 2019, I never considered that it was something more than just my head ramblings. So like I just all of a sudden was just like, you know, and then I had to like, okay, slow it down. And when my dad crossed over in 2020, all of a sudden I was rhyming like I'd never had in my head, which was very overwhelming, and I had to ask for them to dial it back. My guides.
Okay. So when you speak to your guides, do you get feelings in your body, or is it just emotional?
It's both. For me, predominantly, my connection with them is telepathic. But then I do get feelings in my body, what we call the spirit tingles. You know, that vibrational tingly sensation that we can feel.
Yeah, yeah. So did your nervous system feel like it was waking up, shutting down, or swinging in between both?
Swinging in between both. But I was also, I knew before my father crossed over that he would be one of my guides, but I also had to go through grieving. So while I knew I was more connected and closer with him than I ever had been in my life, I
Yeah.
still was grieving a lot of things.
Yeah, so the I have a 5-stage model, sort of a framework of the healing process and the flooring of the nervous system, and that includes, so the first one is where how you said when you first started feeling different when you was hairdressing and stuff and feeling that there was something more. Then the second stage is a little bit disillusionment, when you start sort of you start waking up to things in the world and thinking, oh, like the world's not what I thought it was, and it's not as fair as I thought it was. And then the third is like where you have a breakdown and you don't know who you are, and you are confused and you have a lot of tears and stuff. And then the fourth is the rebuild, where you start rebuilding yourself. And the fifth stage is where you come home to your true self. So I guess you've reached the fifth stage.
With studying Reiki and becoming a Reiki teaching master throughout those years. So that helped me regulate my own nervous system.
Yeah.
And I did cry. I've said many times that I felt like I cried enough tears to fill a new ocean. And I was studying organic Reiki, so it was very tongue in cheek.
So did you notice any problems with your sleep, your energy, digestion, or emotions? Well, we spoke about emotions, but sleep and appetite and your energy and digestion,
Yes.
did you struggle?
Yes. I've always woken up between 3, well, no, I've always woken up around 3 a.m. So I certainly, that was ratcheted up. And then instead of fighting it, I luckily was in a place where I could just say, okay, I'm going to start meditating at that time.
Yeah.
I found I didn't need as much sleep for a while, whereas that swings back and forth because sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. And I actually, most of my life, ate very little, which was very disconcerting to my loved ones. I was in a past life used to fasting. So I had to really recognize that I like to have an empty stomach when I'm going to do spiritual work, but then afterwards, I really need to eat a lot because that helps
Yes.
ground back into the body.
So it sort of like takes away your energy doing spiritual work.
No, it actually makes me feel very joyful and revitalized, but also hungry.
Yeah.
You know, because
So
I've used a lot of energy.
yeah. So what changed in your perception? So did the world feel clearer, sharper, stranger, or just more intense?
I've grown up. My mother had PTSD before she had me. So I came into this world as an empath, having absorbed a lot of her fears, and she reinstilled them because she was trying to keep me safe. So I've had to really let go of being fearful and bracing myself for the worst. So I've really had to work with spirit to reprogram how I react to things and have more faith in myself and the connection that I have with the universe or the creator, whatever one wants to call that energy.
Yeah. So did your sense of self or reality feel different?
Yeah, at first I wouldn't really fully accept the magnitude of my gifts. So then I went to looking at my astrological chart, and then it was all spelled out there. And you know, we as humans like to see it in black and white before we'll believe it. So it just was something that I had to really get over my limited self beliefs, my fear of being seen, the fear of people thinking that I was egotistical because I was expressing my truth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you do find that fear is a big factor, isn't it? I think about awakening. It's letting go of the fear. That's what I perceive awakening as, because we're installed with a lot of fear, aren't we, throughout our lives and stuff. So, but did you feel more connected, or more separate, or both?
More connected, but here's the thing, like when we become more connected, we almost want it like all the time so that we know that it's happening and that it's still there. And it's something that you have to relax. I'm going to touch on the fact that like we are moving from the Piscean age to the Aquarian age. The Piscean age had a lot of work that we had to do subconsciously to recognize that we were in a fear state and then work to let that go. You know, so there's a lot of astrological stuff that's been going on to help us go within, to really examine how we think, how we feel, how we engage with the world, and spirituality is coming back around, is being more popularized. So
it has, yeah. During the stage 3, the part that I call the disillusion stage, where you had all the tears and the breakdowns and stuff, did you question who you were and find your emotions intensify?
I was coming more into being empowered in who I was. And then classically, like they say, when you go down the spiritual path, you have to surrender and let things fall away. So I wound up having to get to the place where I recognized that I know I needed to get divorced and let go of that relationship, because that was a place where I made the person really uncomfortable, and they weren't ready to make that change within themselves.
Right. Yeah, that's one of the questions later on about relationships. But did your old coping mechanisms stop working? Sort of, if you like, did you stop drinking or smoking, or, you know, like anything like that? Did all of that change?
Yeah, I did stop drinking prior to that, which was something that was very helpful. Let me back up a little bit. So like, part of it was that before 2019, I had a pet. My dog passed away rather suddenly.
Oh,
And thank you. I started drinking heavily, and then my then husband was like, "Why are you drinking so much?" And made me realize, oh my goodness, I need to stop that. Then I also realized that there was a correlation between, I had this like chronic throwing up with my cycle and having migraines. And so it's been a long road, but like, I realized like, no, I can't drink, you know, it ratchets everything up. So yeah, it's been like all sorts of things that I had to recognize, let go of, so that I could be more in this clear state. Because when you drink, it calcifies your pineal gland.
Yeah. I believe it actually makes you more. I stopped drinking too. I think it makes you more depressive. It does the opposite to what you actually want it to do, and it makes you not care. So yeah, I completely.
Instead of coming to terms with your shadows or those wounds, you're escaping it. Then it opens you up, if you're doing spiritual work, to like all manner of things that come in.
Yeah. I used to work in a club, and I did notice just people's faces changing all sorts. But yeah, so what helped you feel safe during that stage? Was it just really speaking to your guides and stuff?
It was really embracing the connection I had with spirit. Like, I think one of my missions is to be like, hello, we all have access to that. We don't need to go to someone special. We just have to recognize that we have the right to it within ourselves. You know, I started doing the work, and instead of it being very scary, I've been very blessed that every time I've engaged with people, I mean, there's been a few people where I'm like, I don't think I'm the reader for you, because they're looking for something external validation wise. Instead, I'm more of an internal cathartic process.
Yeah, I get that. So relationship shifts. So you said that you split with your husband. Sorry about that. But was it because you felt misunderstood, or just that you just completely drifted away?
I honestly feel like we came together to help each other do some intense inner work. And I was doing a lot of that. And then again, like, I recognized that I made him very uncomfortable because I am very open and free and expansive and explorative and willing to take leaps of faith and trust. Whereas 2020 unfortunately ratcheted up the fear, you know, and we were in different pages. So I just had to accept, you know, you are on your journey, I'm going forward on mine.
Yeah. So did you notice that your boundaries changed at all?
Oh yes. You know, I used to be this very openly empathetic person that wanted to give everyone what they were missing, and if they didn't have strength, I wanted to give them some of mine. I've really had to become what they call an empowered empath and realize that the healthiest, most loving thing you can do is have healthy love, clear, firm, healthy loving boundaries. I had to prioritize myself and realize, like, I help people that want to do the work themselves.
Yes.
And I can't help people that don't want to do it, because I recognize in certain of my relationships, because I had several close relationships that I had to step away from. And I had to realize that I couldn't help them. It was like trying to help someone who was drowning, and it was ineffectual and draining me.
Yeah. So you can't help some people. They don't want to help themselves, do they? Unfortunately.
In their own timing, and you just have to step back and trust that they'll do it in their own timing. I've had the recognition that, like, some people just aren't going to do it in this lifetime, and when they come back around, perhaps they will then.
Yeah. So dynamics definitely became harder for you to tolerate because you installed boundaries and stuff. So, and I guess, did you become more sensitive to people's behavior, energy, or intentions after your awakening?
I've always been very sensitive and aware. I just would give them the benefit of the doubt or tell myself I was wrong. Like, I would tell myself, oh, you're just being overly critical, or, you know, and then we get those red flags, and then when we don't honor them, they tend to bite us in the butt. So I learned to stop doing that.
Yeah, they definitely do. So were there any relationships that deepened as a consequence? Yeah,
my relationship with my son deepened. He's from a prior relationship. In my astrology chart, I've had a lot of work and partnerships to come into this healthier place in myself. So, you know, I used to call myself the island of misfit toys, and now I'm like, no, I'm a treasure island, and I want to meet with people that are similarly high vibrational.
Yeah. You can, people that have done the healing work on themselves, because it's difficult. Do you find it difficult to be around people that are unhealed, or people like with a victim mindset? Do you struggle being around? Yeah.
Yes, I mean, I was waiting tables to supplement my income, and I had to recognize, like, I couldn't be around these career alcoholics. It was depressing, and I want to help so desperately, but at the same time, like, I have to let people come to me in their own time. So I've learned to put myself in environments that feel good.
Yeah.
You can't always do that as a human, but
no, but you can try, can't you? You can try. So
and recognize what's in alignment and what isn't.
Yeah, it is about alignment, isn't it? So what has actually changed in your daily life now compared to your career, obviously, and
I recognize that there's many ways to meet with spirit. Like, sometimes I do yoga, sometimes I dance, sometimes I garden, and it's just that everything and anything can be a spiritual practice. I love that. Make your life a living prayer, you know. So just, I recognize more the synchronicity and the work that's being done day to day.
Yeah. So how do you stay regulated now? Is yoga one of the practices that you use to stay regulated, or?
Yoga, dance. When I first started down the path, like I was studying Reiki, even though I was told I was going to be a shaman in my 20s by a psychic. And when I started meditating, that was another huge thing for me. As I started meditating, and my guides kept coming with my shamanic tools, and I was like, at one point I seriously said to them, like, I can't afford to study something else, and I don't have the brain power to do anything besides Reiki right now. So like, whoa. And then I realized later that they all were one, and they gave me, my guides had gifted me a song and a dance, and at first I was like, what is this? Like, I don't want to do this in front of people. But then I realized, like, in all spiritual practices around the world, song and dance is one of the first and most normal, regular ways that people come together. So for me, I will get on the yoga mat. I often will start by dancing, then I'll do my yoga. But again, it's just, we're not static. So I've let myself realize that I do what feels right in the moment, instead of forcing myself to do something in a rote way.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it. So what practices, people choice and choices help you to stay, well, we've just done that, grounded, yoga and dance. I love dance, by the way. I think that's a great way to regulate. So what's the biggest thing that you've learned?
To have faith in myself and the connection with spirit. I know I already said that, but really, truly, like,
Yeah.
that's what we all need. And we need to let go of being in that fear state and trust.
Yeah, I agree. So what would you say to someone who is in the early stages of awakening? Because I spoke to Sarah this morning and she said that apparently there's going to be a lot more people awakening this year. And so there'll be a lot of people feeling confused and disoriented like we were. So what would you say to somebody who was just awakening, starting to awaken?
My key words in my spiritual journey or my healing journey have been patience and perseverance. And I will say the number one thing I see with the clients I work with is that, one, we fear that we're not really recovering and that we might slip back. We try to rush the process, and it's something like we say, we're onions. You have to go through the layers. You can't rush it. You have to do that shadow work. You have to go slowly because self-evolution is exhausting. So really have patience with the process and keep going.
Yeah, that's a good thing. So what meaning do you make of the experience now? So has your understanding of awakening changed when you first started awakening to now? Has your understanding changed?
I will say I've just become more empowered and confident and being aware that I am blessed in knowing my calling and to have patience with it blossoming, and that I don't need to work so hard. I just need to let those who want to work with me come to me, and it's been a beautiful process. So to stop trying to be an overachiever, overdoer, people pleaser, and perfectionist.
Yeah, that's good.
And
So
to stop policing myself.
stop what? Sorry.
Policing myself. Like, I recognize that a lot of, even still, while you would think I've been wide open in the last few years, I recognized I was still policing myself to a certain degree, and to just stop. Because if I make someone uncomfortable, that's on them to work through that.
It is, yes. But it's difficult, isn't it, when you've been a people pleaser all your life to all of a sudden install boundaries without feeling guilty and not be a people pleaser anymore. It's at first it's well, it's quite scary, isn't it, really, I guess. So
Yeah, a lot of us are empathetic, so we can feel it.
yeah, I know.
And you need to not personalize it or absorb it. Their feelings are theirs, and none of your business is something I love that is said.
Yeah, that's a good saying. So was there anything that you romanticized at the time when you first awakened to now, something that you see differently?
We tend to think that it's going to be this grandiose thing when it's really just very natural and subtle. They call it the subtle arts for a reason, you know. And again, it's natural, and it doesn't need to be sensationalized.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't find it very subtle. I found it quite brutal, especially the crying bit.
Well, that part, yes, but like when we think, like when we've heard stories of other people, like especially like the saints, it's like this grand epic vision and like interaction, and that's where like it can be, but the more you're working with it regularly and day to day, it's not this sensationalized grand thing. Often it's a very subtle, you know. I will tell people all the time, like, it's all about being centered in your heart space, and if you're not tuned into your emotions, which are signals from your heart, then you're not fully in your heart space, and your emotions are what help you recognize what's coming through your intuition. And your intuition is simply something that spirit or source helps you navigate the material world, you know. So again, it's, you have to slow down and actually tune into that subtle guidance.
So, do you listen more to your body now than you ever
Yeah,
did? Do you feel more into your body than you ever did, sort of?
I'm a trance medium, and that was something I had to really become comfortable with, because when you read about it, sometimes it sounds like possession, and that's not something I'm into. And
Yeah.
I'm a recovering control freak, so it's something where I realized, like, we know that our blood carries the wisdom of our ancestors and their past experiences. Our bodies hold ancient wisdom, therefore. So I had to let myself relax into the fact that my body as a trance medium knew what it was doing. Like, I didn't recognize I was a trance medium until I started doing yoga moves that I didn't know consciously. And then I had to recognize, like, when I became a mother, my reflexes sharpened. So I had to just trust that my body knew what to do. And instead of trying to overthink everything, just trust how I respond.
Yeah, yeah. So, what helped you stay connected to ordinary life?
My relationships. My son, at one point he said, "Nobody likes your metaphysical stuff," and he's come around. So, you know, it's just like, you know, you have to not spiritually bypass. You have to stay like in the material world, engaging. I will say this, like, studying Reiki, um, in the beginning, before Reiki was popularized, these Zen monks, or these monks, were trying to meditate to the point of like near death.
Yeah.
Um, I get confused in my brain keeping it all straight, but like, there's Dr. Usui was doing this, who popularized Reiki. He then wound up like passing out in this stream or under a waterfall, because there's a similar story with Buddha. Anyway, so they pass out in this stream. They realize, like, it isn't about being separate from the world, it's about being a part of the world. So they go rushing back to the village. And it's just, that's where I've recognized, like, as much as a child I like glamorized the thought of being a yogi alone on the top of the mountain, like, no, it's about being a part of the world and like leading by example.
Yeah, yeah, that's a lovely way to think of it. Because I think some of the spiritual community can be very far away with the very far away from society.
Well, and I don't like some people will act like they've gotten to enlightenment and nothing bothers them. They try to portray that facade, and it's not true. I mean,
the point is to still feel everything, isn't it? You still feel everything. You're not emotionless, and you still feel. I find that with people that claim to be dark empaths or dark, I feel like they're holding on to the resentment sort of thing and not letting go completely.
That's a good, because it is all about forgiveness.
Yeah.
And unconditional love.
Yeah.
Not that you make the things that have happened okay, or that you want to go back or repeat them, but
no, absolutely not.
You for being where you are.
Yeah. You just, I feel like you don't want to hurt others, but you also know that you matter too. That's the point that you get to, isn't it? I believe in your journey. That's when you've integrated with your darkness, because you understand that side of you, but you also have a light side as well. It's about integrating, isn't it? So that's my belief anyway. So
yeah, you take that rage you might have and turn it into sacred rage, where it's fuel for you to keep going and achieve what you want to.
Yeah. So do you want to just talk a little bit about what you do then in your business, your new business, what you help people with?
I meet with people, and all of what I do is under the umbrella of energy healing. Like when I first started studying Reiki, I didn't think that tarot reading or astrology would be a part of the equation, but I had started practicing divination when I was 15. I grew up in a household that had a lot of trauma, mental disability, or mental disturbances, we'll call it instead, and addiction, and it was what kept me sane and afloat. I didn't, it was when my Reiki teacher started asking for readings and not Reiki work that I asked her, and she was like, "Oh, you didn't know that that's a way that you provide this?" No, I didn't. So a lot of times I meet with people and do channeled card readings where no matter what I'm doing, I'm channeling information to you from your spiritual team, from your mind, your body, whatever wants to speak with you with love. I really like doing birth chart readings, because again, it shows people exactly how they're designed instead of vilifying it, learning to work with it with intention. Because I used to vilify, I was labeled with ADHD. I always thought I was anxious. I had to recognize that I was an empath, and looking at my chart, it showed me that I was absorbing information and processing things on many different levels, and that I had to actively, this was repeated several times, I had to actively work to regulate my nervous system to handle that, so that's my passion of helping people.
Do you still, when you're around people, have you learned how to protect your energy so that you don't absorb and stuff? So you have energy.
I used to be a person that really only wanted to meet with people one-on-one. Being in crowds always overwhelmed me. And I was doing a large event at one point in spirit. Like, there's a lot of humor and tongue-in-cheek with my guides, and they're like, okay, imagine wrapping yourself in bubble wrap so that you're like very insulated. I normally will imagine that I'm in like in Wizard of Oz, Glinda the Good Witch, like that crystalline bubble.
Yeah.
But sometimes you need to up the ante and be bubble wrapped.
I like that. I love bubble wrap.
One woman, she just said, "Shields up, Scotty," because again, it's that humor, and
I think I've adapted humor to be my it's like one of my boundaries. I use it to deflect sort of thing. I found that so
Well, it's very transmutative. Um, like in part, I'm a heyoka, which is someone who heals through meeting people with humor, you know,
yeah.
because they always say laughter is the best medicine.
Oh, it is. Yeah, it definitely helps. It definitely helps. So that's all really. So I hope you've enjoyed it and thank you for coming on. It's
Yeah, I'm really glad that the universe threw us together.
yes, me too. And on it's supposedly isn't it tomorrow or something that's it's going to be quite intense or something for the next few days energetically.
Yeah, we're in what they call the Lionsgate portal period. That's when Sirius, which is
The
23
star.
times brighter than our sun, it comes into alignment with us. You know, all people around the world throughout ancient civilizations followed Orion. So basically, the way that they've put it is that, you know, they call these the dog days of summer if we're in the northern hemisphere. And whenever
Yeah.
there's more light flooding in, there's more growth. We have the opportunity to have more growth taking place.
Yeah. So I read all about that because the Egyptians and stuff they were very much into it, weren't they? And
Yes, it comes into alignment with the pyramids, which
yeah,
are powerhouses. And then a lot of, you know, Stonehenge, these things were like cosmic calendar pieces.
yeah. There's some stones in Scotland, but apparently they don't have any. But I'd like to go and see them just to
I would
feel
love to
them
see
because
all of them, every single
yeah,
one.
yeah, because I've been to Stonehenge and they don't allow you to go close enough to feel and anything, and there's lots of people there, so you kind of it's difficult to
Yeah.
feel. But the ones in Scotland, I believe, I think you can go right up to them and touch and
And Sweden. There's some
oh
in Sweden.
really?
Yeah.
There's some in Sweden as well. So oh, I forgot one last question. So did this bring you closer to nature, or were you already?
I've always been knee deep in the woods. That's my happy place. Like a lot of the stuff I just innately was gravitating towards, and then I had to recognize the deep significance um, that I have, that connection point. Like, I mean, knock on wood, nothing bad has ever happened to me in the wood. I've never had poison ivy. Like, it's my safe place. I don't know. So yes, I
Yeah,
work with,
yeah.
and I work with elemental energy as part of what I do.
Yes, so I always find nature is very good at regulating us.
It's always been my church.
Yeah, that's how I feel. My brother's religious now. He never used to be, but and he was trying to get me to go to his church, and I was like, my church is outside, like with nature. So
I tell you
yes,
that something like I had no yin to deal with ghosts. Like they scared me to death. I thought angels and cherubs were horseshit. Pardon my French. But in this process, because I grew up outside of Lynchburg, Virginia, which is very Southern Baptist, and people's portrayal of these things made me push it aside. And then I had to recognize on my spiritual journey that it was nothing against the energy of Jesus or what have you. It was just, and like angels started coming to me, and I was just like, what the what? You know, so it's just, I've had to really let go of a lot of negative perceptions that I was fed by society
yeah,
to
yeah,
embrace the beautiful energy that's around. Like I never thought that the deities were real, which a lot of deities out there were real people before they became deities. So it's just like wrapping my head around all the beautiful, supportive energy out there and the ways that it shows up.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, thank you very much.
Definitely.
So yeah. Thank you. Right.
Yes. And I